it's Halloween. We were saying in France, we don't have the exact same tradition as Halloween. We celebrate Toussaint, All Saints. And so it's the day where you just put flowers on your grandpa's graveyard and put some good wishes. So it's much more low-key traditionally in France.
Yeah.
And in a way, it kind of is a reflection of our culture, because this ceremony, in a way, in France is very down to earth. You just gonna put some flowers to your dead people's grave, and typically you will not do anything, for this day. You would just respect your dead. Which is the exact opposite of what Halloween is, where it's a celebration, and not to say which one is best or not. Huh?
Yeah.
The one is much more entertaining and playful and fun, but in France it's much more boring, you could say, but potentially meaningful. I don't know, who knows the qualifier that one wants to put on it. But more and more, actually, in France, we get more and more a culture Halloween coming, and doing a little bit of celebration. Kids go ask for sweets. But it came progressively into the French culture, that it wasn't there before.
So you're saying that while some of that trick-or-treat culture is starting to filter into France, it's not like nationwide or anything yet? It's not commonplace? Wow. And when did it start trickling in?
Well, when I was a kid, in the 90s, I think, it started to be like, hey, okay, let's just go out and dress a little bit. But it's never been this big thing like it's been in the US,
Yeah. It's huge out here. People love to dress up. I mean, who knows? Part of it is probably because we look forward to that one time of the year where we can let loose and pretend to be something else. Because while it's traditionally supposed to be like scary costumes, something spooky, it's become more like just be in a costume. It's doesn't even have to be scary. So it's I think it's just this liberating feeling, because there's this whole concept of children going trick-or-treating and everything, but it's just as big for adults. And to me, there's something almost cathartic about it for a lot of the grown-ups, where they just want to have an excuse to be flamboyant, and be outrageous. It's well, it's Halloween, and I think if Halloween isn't going to be about the dead or something spooky, it's kind of I wish people could embody that whole dress up and pretend more than once a year. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's the dressing up once in a while, in a way, stepping into the, I would not say the body, but in a way almost the body of something else. Like superhero, or there's something quite cathartic about it. And to this, I'd like to give a small illustration from my hometown. So where I was born in Dunkirk. Some people know Dunkirk, from the movie Christopher Nolan, Second World War,
which was amazing.
It was an interesting movie. Yes. But what people do not know about Dunkirk is that it's got a very carnivalesque culture. So it's a culture of carnival, because the people the culture of the town is is a pirate town. It's a privateering town. So it's people were hired by respectively, French, Spaniards, or Netherlandish governments to hijack the boat of other people. So this was a town of privateer, and this is where the frigate comes from. But so the town has kept this culture. Then it became like a fisherman's place. So they will go in long expedition to get the best fish in Iceland and then come back. And those were very perilous missions. So it's like all the really tough guys who are living in Dunkirk, you know, because it's the town where you can find people who are willing to go at sea and potentially will not survive. So because of that, before they went on expedition, you know, in spring, on their long sea campaign, they will party like it's their last day of Earth, because it's potentially might be, you know, they may never come back. And so this culture kept around, and it's very cathartic, you know. And it's quite unique actually in this town. That's not even like this in France, in the rest of France. But so during this time, usually Easter, it's like people dress, but unlike Nice or Rio's Carnival or Venice, it's like the goal is not to look good, but it's to look as ridiculous as you possibly can, you know?
So cool. That's so cool. I like that a lot.
So
What
yeah,
are the women?
Yeah.
What are the women like? I mean, you've described, you know, because of that pirate culture and how perilous it can be, that they've had to be very strong and, you know, very aggressive, like a pirate. What are the women like? I mean, I'm sure that has a lot of pressures on, say, the household or families when the men go off and potentially die, you know? What's that like for them?
Women are really tough over there, you know? They're like tough men, tough women.
Yeah.
But in a way, tough, but big heart. That's what's really interesting. It's like, in a way, it's a very anarchic culture. It's like, they don't like people who show off too much, you know, in this town. It's like, it's a town, everyone's equal, mayor, the cop, and really this carnival brings everyone together, you know. It's like together for a few months during the year, because it actually lasts a long time. It's actually everyone is in together and they sing the same songs that they know every day. Some of those songs are really, you could say, misogynistic. They're like very sexual or whatever. But women, they don't really care about it. You know, it's like for them, it's just, but sometimes in a way it's against men, sometimes against a woman. But it's like the songs are even like talking about all taboos, but really like insane taboos, but with humor. So it's kind of this really jovial, like you could say, very down-to-earth crowd, like not rich people, but like a bit warrior mentality, but like we're in this together kind of thing, you know? And like, because life is short, you know, let's make the best of it, you know. And also the ritual is like, they have so many of them, but one is like the 1st of January. So for New Year's Eve, you know, le bain des givrés. It's like the ball of the givré means both frozen and crazy. So it's like the frozen bath, and it's like you go there almost like dressed as well, or naked or whatever. But the water is like, I don't know, 5 degrees, 4 degrees max. It's really cold. But because everyone is in together and sing and shout, it's like, yes, you can do it, you know. It's one of those rites of passage that I love, you know.
That's awesome. So my question is, why don't you live there? It sounds awesome over there. Is it, I don't know why I'm having, maybe it was because of the movie, but I just feel like this is like not a big population of people, like it's country. Am I wrong? Is this more of like a city?
It's like small size town, especially compared to the US. You know, it's like maybe 100,000 people. You know, but yeah, it's not a town where you go to. I don't know, like work for big companies. You won't have interesting occupation in my line of work. You know, like design or software. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But so Halloween, yeah, I went out last night actually. My boyfriend and I went out, and he's not really one to fuss over things like Halloween, so I had to think of a pretty simple costume idea. And literally just like a few days before Halloween, I was like, okay, he can just wear all black and he'll be a black hole. And and I will wear white, and I will wrap some lights around myself or something, and I will be light, and we will be handcuffed together because light cannot escape out of a black hole.
Mm.
So a little bit highbrow, I suppose, but yeah, so that was the costume. I mean, not a lot of people got it probably, but you know, it was cool. I loved it. I wore the lights in my hair. It was fun. It was cute.
You know, I have something new as well. It's like, you know, I bought like a Radiesthesia book, you know, like a pendulum. And this is for people as well, maybe they don't know this, but there's something called a Bovis scale. Have you heard of the Bovis scale?
No, I don't think I have.
So the Bovis scale is actually a way to measure someone's frequency, you know? Like, you know, in esoteric, new agey field, spiritual, whatever, they talk about high vibration of people, whatever. Turns out there's a way to measure people's vibration.
Ooh.
And I discovered this scale, and I made my measurements, and I found I don't know, maybe it's my subconscious mind projecting, but it seems like it really works.
Okay, well, tell me how you did it, and is it something you can only do for yourself, or can you do it for other people?
Well, how about I do it live?
To me?
I mean, I don't know, to you or whoever. Like,
yeah.
you tell me some people, and then I try to find their Bovis.
No, let's do it to me.
We can do it live.
I'm a willing participant. I feel like if we just did it to some rando, that it's a form of rape or something.
No, but we can do it for celebrities or whatever, because I did for a lot of people.
Oh, I see.
So, like, I got some weird result with some people, and I'm like, these people.
So a whole new dimension of judging. No, I was kidding.
Right?
Yeah, no, I was just kidding. Yeah, I never heard this. This is kind of like astrology kind of thing, but okay. So what do you need? How do we do it?
So I think it would be interesting to our spiritual crowd. So the idea is like, so okay, so it's in French, but here it's like, so those are the number, you know.
The frequency.
This is physical plane, energetic plane, and spiritual one. And typically, the higher is the higher the vibration.
Right. So it's almost like chakra, because like a lot of the physical, you know, the root, sacral, and solar plexus are the physical chakras, and then you get into the heart, throat, and third eye, crown. You get more into that spiritual.
I mean, I don't know. It could be because, you know, like of the, you know, the scale has colors as well, which is really interesting.
Roy Jibib.
And
so how do you do the measurements?
Yes, so some guy his name was Bovis. So radiesthesia has been existing for a long time. Actually, you know, like mediums, they will use a pendulum to ask questions or Ouija board or whatever. And then he tried to find a way that perhaps colors would mean something, you know. And then he put like some gradients to make sure that yeah, maybe you can measure and now it's one of the tools that it's the tool that radiesthesists, so radiesthesists, those who use pendulum to get information, use to check the vibration of a person or a place. And so I tried myself, and so I took like a short course or whatever, and you need to have a certain degree of vibration first for you to be able to measure it in other people. And then it's like, so typically, Jesus would be, so the scale stop at 50,000, but like Jesus would be kind of like 70,000 or 60,000. And Buddha was like, I don't know, but we can test actually. I can try. And give me some names. How it goes. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So give me a moment.
Yeah, I'm so interested. I've never heard this before.
Okay, so whether oh. You want to know about yourself, Joanna, or not?
Yeah, I can't hear you though. I feel like it's muffled.
I don't know if that could be private information. Let's put something like what's the brand? Like Russel brand?
There you go. Oh, I couldn't hear you because I think maybe you might have covered the microphone or something.
So you are, I don't think you're able to see because, you know.
I can see the pendulum.
But for me, I've got like 37,000. It was pretty good actually. It's like really highly spiritual person. Give me another name.
Am I supposed to say something?
Yeah, give me a name.
Oh, Joanna.
Okay, so Joanna Burns.
Joanna Burns.
Joanna's like 27. It's really good. 27 good.
27?
No, 27,000. So it's really good. You know, it's like right.
What color?
It's green blue. It's like, let's say 80% of people, they are over there, actually. 80% of people, they are there. Then here is like energetic people, so people that are sensitive, you know, that are already, and here is like spiritual people. But everyone can actually raise their vibration, you know, through working their traumas or meditating, you know, like this.
So how does, I mean, I guess now the question would be that everybody would think is, but doesn't the person holding the pendulum have an effect on it?
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah. Although, you know, like honestly, I'm really, like, I know if I influence it, it goes back to a specific place, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes I can see myself, okay, I'm gonna move it, but it just go wherever it wants to go. It's just the way it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I've worked with pendulums before, and it's interesting. You know, once you get it still and then you ask something, it like it moves.
Mm.
So that's cool. You say a name. Would it maybe it might work better if you said a name since you're holding it.
No, because after if I think of it,
Okay.
so if I think of it, it's not about saying it. Is I think of a person and then it happens. You know, like
Yeah.
way it's
Well,
energetic
interesting.
vibration of the person or whatever, even if it's just a name or. But I need to know who that person is. You know, if I don't know,
Yeah.
or I can hear a
Um,
voice, or if I just see that person, I can do it. You know.
let me think of a good one.
Musical artist or something.
Yeah.
How about
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan? Okay, it's like 7,000. Yeah.
So he's very sacral, it looks like.
It's like
Or
yeah,
yeah,
but
I'm associating it with chakras for some reason.
I don't know if it's linked to sacral or like it could be like the Kundalini. It could be. Who knows? Maybe. Huh?
Yeah, one more.
Yeah.
Just wait for it to still down. So Sam Harris.
Sam Harris is like almost 38,000.
Yeah. I mean, I would expect so, just because he talks a lot about meditation and spirituality. I mean, you know, to a level that his audience is comfortable with, I suppose.
Okay, so then something interesting happened. It's like
Hmm.
so sometimes I ask okay, so it says Steve Jobs. Okay. Oh, Steve Jobs, highly spiritual. Okay, about 38,000 as well. Interesting. Bill Gates.
Do Bezos.
Wait, Bill Gates first.
Oh, sorry.
So Bill Gates about 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Bezos. That's the one I did. Jeff Bezos. Like what's happening, Jeff Bezos? So
What about let's do Mark Zuckerberg.
here it's like really like
Earth.
so this is like physical plane. So that means he's someone who's like has no spirituality whatsoever.
Mm,
Like pure materialistic and in a way,
right.
as Alan Moore puts it, when you're in pure materialism, it's like
Yeah.
it's the realm of
Even more particle.
so I don't know, huh? Jeff Bezos, but I noticed this yesterday, Jeff Bezos. Shit.
It's like, hey, it's like super strong. What
And I'm
about Zuckerberg?
not trying to influence it, and it's just, I mean,
Uh,
and Mark Zuckerberg.
yeah, I
Mark
figured.
Zuckerberg, okay, not great too, huh?
Well, they're just super earthy. You know, they're like you said, material. They're more particle than wave, probably.
One is more,
Um, oh, I know. Do Sakuru.
Elon Musk is still all right, it's like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
He's very balanced.
Sadhguru,
Mm,
Sadhguru is almost like 50,000.
yeah,
40,
fun. What if you did like a fictional name?
non-fictional name, it doesn't work. Like Mickey Mouse? Mickey Mouse? But it works with song though. It works with frequency of songs.
Does it have to be that kind of pendulum or any pendulum?
Oh, I think it could be a different kind of pendulum, but I think this one is, is well weighted and works really well for this. Yeah, and also this scale can extend to places. So here.
Oh.
So here is like for very big vibration. And so usually no people goes to those. But then I ask interesting questions. So it's like, right, so where is Jesus? Jesus, like 60,000 Boris. Buddha. See, Buddha is a little bit less. It's like 48,000. It's really interesting. Huh?
Yeah. What about like Muhammad?
Sadhguru could be Buddha. Maybe, who knows? Then Khrishna. See, Khrishna?
Whoa.
Bigger. Khrishna almost like 75,000. So strange. Like I would thought Christ would be higher.
Do United States.
United States. We need the other. I think I did the example. So United States. It's like 6,000 Boris. At 6,000. It's an average. Huh?
Where did you get that book? And did it come with the pendulum?
No, I bought it separately, like a metaphysics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, then I found some places really interesting. That's what I wanted to show, and then. So if I say Cathédrale Notre-Dame. So the French, Notre Dame is like 40,000 dollars. It's okay. Then if I say Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is like.
What about the pyramid?
How about
the Great Pyramid?
Giza, Pyramid of Giza. $70,000. Okay. Manchester. Almost 85,000. But Machu Picchu is the biggest one I could find.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
What's that?
That's 60,000. It's pretty good. And then I found the Chartres Cathedral. It's good. It's like 70,000. Yeah, it's really interesting.
That is cool. Yeah, I've never seen that before. And what do we do with the information we get from it?
Well, for me, for instance, now knowing this, I will be like, hey, maybe I will go to this high vibrations place. And typically, radiesthesis, that's what they've been called to do. It's like when there is a place that's, you know, like haunted house or whatever, they go ask one of those guys. It's like, okay, what's going on there? And so what they do is like, okay, what's the, if there's a water pipe under, if there is like ancient history, then they use some other you know, plank, because there's so many of them. And then it says, okay, you ask a question, then it answers. Ask a question, it answers. It's like a field. And for some reason, it just gives you, it oscillates to give you the answer that what you need to do as an intervention to raise the frequency of a place or people. So typically what it says as well is like, if someone needs help, you know, like they will need this therapy or that therapy or that therapy or that therapy, or like some of it is about the future, you know, what's going to happen to you. It's everything there. And I'm just beginning in it. But for me to develop my connection with the field is the first is the body scale or the yes/no angle. Start with it, and then by time it's like my connection is becoming stronger and stronger.
Yeah, because it looked like it would move pretty
Sorry?
quickly. Yeah, that's cool. When did you find that? Because you never told me about it, so it feels like you might have found it recently.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing with pendulum for a while, you know, like asking questions, and I did the board, but then I learned of the body scale, and I suppose sometimes it's like almost things come to me when it wants to come, you know, in a way. And then I was in the store, metaphysical, and I thought it was a very obscure thing, and he was like, yeah, of course, body scale, yes, no problem. I got the whole Radiesthesia book and whatever, and then choose a pendulum. It's like it shows me like which one. Then it's like, in a way, you take the pendulum, then you ask like this is yes, this is no, and then you see which one is the most reactive. And in a way, I can feel inside of me, you know, it's strange for people to consider this, but I can feel inside of me, like if I put the point on my heart or whatever, there's something in me that, I don't know. It's a physical sensation though.
Yeah, like with the pendulum, you mean?
Yeah, in a way, it's more with like any pointy object. It's like, you know, we have like, you know, in acupuncture, you know, lines of energetic lines. I forgot how they're called.
Meridians?
Yeah, meridians, yes. And so some of mine are still blocked. I still have blocked meridians, but I notice when I use a certain tool or whatever that it unblocks some of my stuff inside. I notice it straight away. Maybe because I'm so blocked, and I've been told I had lots of energy, but I also have lots of blockages. So I'm wondering what's going to happen when I remove all my blockages, because all this stuff is happening to me like I get more and more sensitive to this energy around. And it works with plants, you know, certain plants and other things, and yeah, it's you know,
It's trippy. It's trippy. No, I understand what you're saying, because you know, obviously I'm a spiritual person. I hate saying that because there's such a connotation to it, especially because I live in California or whatever. But I mean, I was an atheist probably 2 to 3 years ago. So I'm not just somebody that sought the woo woo. The woo woo found me at a very atheist position, trying to learn about the universe and then realizing it's not even real. So anyway, so yeah, like the more you open yourself up to that energy field, and to see that it's good, or you know, I mean, what is good, what is bad, like that dichotomies don't exist. The higher you go, it just is all energy. It's just things are, you know. there's no point of questioning anything. The higher your awareness goes, there's just no point of questions at some point. But when you open yourself up to it, you see things that in nature that some people just see a tree. It's a fucking tree. But like for me, a certain tree that's not in anywhere, any place beautiful or romantic, it's in front of a hotel. Okay. I'm walking by the tree and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this tree. What's going on with this tree? Why am I feeling this about this tree? Like, you know what I mean? Like I just feel something. And it's like, I'm looking at this tree. This happened a couple days ago when I was like walking to the beach. And I walk by this tree in front of a freaking Marriott or something. And I'm like, oh, what's up with this tree? You know? And I'm looking at it and it's very lush. Like it's a trunk and then it's like really shady and lush, lots of branches, lots of leaves. And I'm like, we have no idea what this tree mathematically represents. We have no clue. We just assume it's completely random. But we don't know. What if this tree and I'm having a connection to it? What if it represents the neurons in my brain? Right? Like if what if it represents, we don't know. And people will say that's ridiculous or whatever. How do you know? You can't say that's ridiculous. You have no one. Like that's part of our conversation last week, right? With intelligence. What does it mean to have a mind? Like, are you only thinking with your brain or are you thinking with all of yourself, with your body, your being, and like what you really are? Because again, reality isn't even physical. It's all like like in our minds, it's in our consciousness. And no one knows what happens to that consciousness when we physically die. So the point is, when you can open your mind up to just past your brain, to have it be all of yourself, then you might open yourself up to a different intelligence of like, oh my God, this tree. Am I connecting with this tree? Because mathematically it might represent something of myself. Like, even if it doesn't, like, to feel connected to that tree or to anything that is of nature that no human being can create, it's fucking cool. And why not give yourself that pleasure? You know, even if it is woo woo, like it doesn't matter. Like you're still giving yourself, you're still elevating your sense of being. It's having a physical effect on you where it could be improving your health by feeling elevated like that, you know?
Well,
So,
you know, the other day, I was walking by, you know, the river next to where I live, and I met those, you know, Rastaman who were, you know, smoking weed, and say, "Hey, can I come with you, have some?" And we were talking about, you know, growing good cannabis. And he was like expert of it. He was like, yeah. And he said, you know, you can have the same seed, but you plant it different space, different place with different people, you're gonna have different effect. It's like it's the vibe, man.
would he ever grow indoors, or is there a difference between indoor and outdoor growing?
Yeah, there's difference, yeah.
But like as the expert, that guy, did he mention like, is it like blasphemy for him to grow indoors? Or is he like, it's gotta be in nature? Or I mean, I always wonder, and I don't really actually smoke pot, like I'll eat edibles, but I just wonder about that. Like, is there some sort of a spiritual thing if you grow it indoors? Like, is that kind of like sacrilege? I mean,
Well, I mean, we didn't talk about this, but for his point was like I mean, in a way, our point together that we seem to agree is like the plant absorb the energy of people that are growing it. And I think there's been like another friend of mine told me about you know, experiments they did with music. You know, they will give some Mozart to the cannabis, and then you know they will it retain this quality, you know, this, in a way, the same with cows, you know, like when you give them good music to hear, the meat's gonna taste different.
Mm.
That's for sure. But it works with plants as well. Imagine that. So like plants are receptive to the energy. I mean, not energy as like power, but as like the, I don't know, the quality that's in the air. Like even if you put some music, it doesn't have ears. Maybe it's still, and potentially it comes back to the studies of, you know, that Japanese scientist. Maybe you've heard of him. I forgot the name. I think it was Sato or something. But he crystallized water. So he put water through different treatment, put different music. One was like hardcore, one was like classical music, Mozart, and some was like words like harmony, peace, joy, hate, whatever. And then he took under a microscope a snapshot of the crystal of water, you know, when water becomes crystallized, and they will form a shape that's almost aligned with the vibration that's being promoted. So if you see like peace is a very beautiful pattern, you know, or like harmony, very beautiful, and then chaos is like super. So it's like potentially it's really water, whom, you know, we're like I think more than 2/3 composed of is actually composed of water, and water is a very conductive, you know. So who knows? Maybe it's through the medium of you know, water that we pick up the vibration of our energy of other living things, but even just sound, frequency that are being said, even shapes.
So I have a couple questions. How does the water crystallize? Is there something being done to it physically as, say, the music was playing or the word was being said?
No, I mean, liquid, you know, is like waters are moving, the molecules of water are moving, but when they crystallize, it's like they stick together. So in a way, it's like the dance that they do. You know, it's like you know, you know, when they put some sounds and then you see the sand doing
Yeah.
oscillation.
Yeah.
It happens, but on atomic level as well.
So how do they capture that image or that shape?
Maybe I could share a screen of.
And another thing, you're talking about words, but like there's different languages, and really what words are just sounds, right? And so I would think that whoever is saying the word, it's like their energy, that the meaning they have behind the word, because the sound that I make when I say chaos, that's an English word, but maybe in another country, another language, those same sounds that form chaos might mean something different, like something more positive. So you know what I mean? Because like language is just, it's guttural sounds we make with our mouths. So I would think that it would have something to do with the person saying, making those sounds and the meaning that they associate with it, right?
I don't think it's about the sound, but I really think it's about the meaning. But it could be that the person saying it.
Yeah, because like the meaning could, like the sounds that make the word chaos, in English, chaos means disorder, but in another language, those sounds could mean peace, you know? I mean, I don't speak all the languages in the world, but it could be chaos. Chaos could mean something in another language different, you know? Ooh.
You sing.
So yeah, I mean, I just
Are
don't
you
understand
seeing?
how they capture that image of water.
It's so simply on a microscope. It's as easy as this, actually. You know, it's
Oh.
like a frozen water, just under a microscope. Then you see the crystals, you know. And then, well, you way their beauty is with the harmony is aligned with the frequency that's being. So I think there's something about it, you know. It's like, oh, imagine, and it's been done again and again and again. It's very consistent. See the beautiful flower, love, thank you, peace. As you is a complete.
Yeah, I mean, everything is connected. Like that's such a woo-woo statement, but that's what physics tells us too. Science is catching up to what has been known for ages in Eastern traditions.
Yeah.
You know, Eastern traditions, people who have been practicing Buddhism, you know, Hindu, it's like, duh. You know, so funny, but it's like a cycle. You know, I would say that we're talking maybe like way back in history during like, say, Egyptian time or Mayan culture, like those times, early Sumerians or whatever, I feel like people were probably higher vibrational. And then it just kind of, in order to you know, I feel like they were more connected to the gods, where they understood more of that connection. But then we had to descend into what we have now, like where we have to like chaos and entropy, and now we're kind of coming back around and coming back to another place, higher place of that elevation. But it's just like this constant spiral where we have to kind of, we get to an apex and then it's like, oh, got to descend again in a way, but still at a higher level. But like, you know what I mean? When we think about history and the people that came up, whatever, right, with like the Sumerian tablets or Hinduism and Buddhism, I feel like they were very much at a more of spiritual connection and understood this idea of interconnectedness with all beings. And we just kind of moved away from it, but only we had to descend back into hell so that when we come back up, it's higher. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Because that's how everything else works in nature, cyclical cycles. Things get chaotic to come into a better new order, and on it goes. To what end? Who knows?
Yeah, the end of things.
There's no end to this.
It's a tough one to. Is there an end to all of it? You know, there's no end. It's like maybe.
That's why there's no way we only have one universe. The possibilities are just endless. Like, you know.
Or, you know, because actually the perception of time before we had a scale, before we measured it, it was mostly considered as cyclical. Because, like, you know, the day and night, seasons, you know, Earth spin, so everything was cyclical. They did not think too much about there is a linearity and an end to things. But after, when you introduce a scale and, you know, time, like years, then you think more linearly about time. But that's not how most ancient ancestors were thinking about. But the first model for time was the astrological model, really, because they saw the stars in the sky. Oh, something happened. There's a pattern, and they knew early on that you know, it will take like eons, you know, for our place, you know, in the grand scheme of things to shift. And that's where the idea of eras come, you know, but it's like 2,400 years, you know. It's like massive, you know, scale of time for them. So,
yeah.
And you know, to go to the 12 houses, like 24,000 years, I think 24,000 years or 48,000. I forgot.
It's a lot. Like even just Pluto to go around, it's like 200 something years. That's just Pluto. Like when you talk about the astrological houses and their speed across, all 12 houses, it's a long time, but it's a long time because we're trying to quantify time. But the main point is things are cyclical, and there's things that happen that are going to take a long time to happen, and some things happen more quickly. It's like not all the planets move at the same same rate. Like Mercury goes around pretty quick, and Venus. So and that's the thing, like, don't get lost in your brain trying to figure it out. Just understand, okay, now open yourself up to think with your other parts of yourself, to kind of take it all in. And don't let it overwhelm you. Like, it's so easy to do that, like be like, and be like completely paralyzed. Just but it's your birthright as a human being to know that all of this is available to you, all of this energy, and just don't get stuck in your physicality. It's hard. It's hard, especially if you're starving, if you don't have food, if you don't have a home. Like, how do you, I think at that point, you have to think about the hierarchy of needs. I feel privileged that I can sit here and think about spirituality. And like Sadhguru, he would say, like, when you're starving, you have one problem. How do I feed my belly? When your belly is full, you have a million problems. Right? It's so effing true. Like, and that's just, there's no right or wrong about it. It's not good or bad. It just is. Like, the moment that you have, you're surviving now, you have plenty of food, you have a home, then you realize these other aspects that are empty in your life. And some people, they have to just feed themselves, and we have to be sympathetic to that need if we are able and capable of providing help for people who are in those needs, and not try to feed them all our spiritual bullshit. Like, they can't eat your spiritual knowledge. You need to give them food.
Yeah, it's very true. Like, I wish more spiritual community will get down to the basics of, like, hey guys, actually lots of sufferings around. Maybe let's try our best to do something
help.
about it.
Yeah.
Like like in Buddhism and stuff like this, there's a lot of contemplation, but there's a lot of I don't want to see that, like my perspective on spirituality, my own spirituality is more like there's so much pain in the world, it's unbearable sometimes. It's not like I'm content and happy all the time. Like, no, there's so many things that I'm not happy with, that I wish would be better. And in a way, I can't get out of my head, yeah, it's like we could do so much better with what we have, with the resource we have. We could be more mindful. We could share so much more resources. How is it possible? I mean, how do we even consider it, okay? Some guys can have like a 300 billion pocket money, just one person.
It's insane.
And, while you have billions, maybe half a billion starving.
No, and
that's
not enough even. They keep wanting more. Right? Their idea of zero is different than our idea of zero. Their zero now is if I don't have less than $50 billion, that's me. That means I have zero. You know what I mean? Like, their equilibrium has shifted. And the thing is, when you can accumulate, if you can accumulate so much wealth and be able to sleep at night knowing what's happening, you're probably I mean, I am making a judgment. I will say this. I am making a judgment, but I don't know what it's like to have that much money. I'm assuming that it would be hard for me to sleep at night. But at the same time, I'm sleeping at night with what I have now. You know, it's not like I'm 24/7 out there trying to look for homeless people on the streets and feed them food. So there's a part of me that isn't doing everything I can do. So that's why it's a little bit like, as I make these judgments on these billionaires, at some level, we all are lacking in what we actually do, that we are really capable of doing. So in saying that, it's like I am making a judgment when I say this to people who have billions of dollars. It's like I'm assuming that if you keep wanting more on top of this, that there's some part of you that isn't content and is unhappy. And for people who are just barely surviving, it's like unfathomable how that can be. Because they're just like, if you have food in your belly, what's wrong with you? You should be fine. If you can eat 3 meals a day, you should be the happiest person in the world, right? So that's why I think, as a spiritual person or trying to make sense of that, it's just, look, it's not your lot to even make sense of it. People are where they are, whatever, whatever. And, you know, just fix the relationship you have with yourself. So as I sit here and I admit, like, there are things I can do, more things than I am currently doing, that could better this world. And that's not an easy thing to admit, right? Because we all want to be like, why aren't those billionaires fucking doing more? It's like, no, what am I able to do that I'm not doing? Before I even look at a billionaire and make my judgments, it's like, could I do something? Could I make little food packages and find a homeless person and homeless people and give that food away a little bit? Like, am I doing that? I could, but I'm not. So yeah, it's just fixing the relationship you have with yourself before you worry about other people. You know, it's hard to do. It's hard to do because it's like you see other people that you think, man, if I had that, I'd be happier. I could do so much more than that person with that much money. But it's like, well, you don't even do what you can do now. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough subject, you know, because you could say Elon Musk, with his money, for instance, is doing some good for the world as well, you know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
with you know, the move to electric cars, solar city. Or after there's like the brain implant, where you know, I have a completely different opinion on that. But and I would say, you know, the world is becoming better on that side, but I think it would be great, at least as a baseline, if I suppose everywhere in the world, everyone could have at least, you know, like 3 meals a day, a shelter, huh? Guaranteed shelter, guaranteed food, you know, at least you have that, you have comfort of mind, you know, that
Not everybody even has that. Sad.
and even sometimes wealthy people, I mean, like middle class, they don't have that because they fear their home's going to be repossessed if they lose their job, you know. Like if you're constantly afraid that you're going to lose your job, you know, you're going to stick to your job, you're going to shut up, you know, because you're going to be afraid to bite the hand that feeds you, you know. And so that's how people are kept in line and not speaking their true mind. Because how many people will quit their boring job where they're being abused if they had that security, you know, this base level security? People do not have actually psychological safety, even if they have a house and whatever. Because, well, for how long can you still maintain the bills on your house, you know, if you don't have a job, you know? So that's how everyone is kept really on the treadmill, pretty much, on like you know, rolling in our respective cage. But sometimes it's golden, sometimes it's rotten.
Cage regardless.
But cage, yeah, we're all hamsters on a cage, you know. But it's like some people have like a really golden one, and they can lose the like. I think you become like really comfortable in your mind when you know you will never have to work a day in your life. You know, this is where there is a mindset shift in some people, and that's why you know some rich people can become like really arrogant when they go into that space. It's because it's like, well, I mean, they become idol, they do whatever they want, but sometimes they lose meaning in their lives. It's like, okay, I don't have direction because I don't have a will. So it's strange, huh? It's like, I think, you know, it's not because you have a will that you lose meaning. Because some people will think like, hey, what a job, what a world without work. You know, like against universal basic income. You know, some people will say, well, but you need a job to feel happy. It's like, really?
Well, I mean,
You need a quest. You need something to aim for. Not necessarily a job. And yeah, rich people blame, you know, like in some like conservative right wing, you know, poor people. It's like, well, they don't work hard enough, or they haven't studied enough, and it's like, well, did they have the same opportunity as you know, like to get this, you know?
and the systems are rigged. So it's like ridiculous to even to make that argument. But one thing, that's what I mean, like things are what they are. They are what they are, or is like questioning it and saying things are unfair. I mean, there's a value to that because it can help with revolution and all of this, right? But again, before we can even think about that, we have to focus on ourselves and how can we center ourselves in spite of what is going on outside. And when people say, like you were talking about, like people won't speak up at work because they might lose their job, and of course that feels existential, like, oh my gosh, then I could be out on the street and starve and die. And the reality is, okay, and again, this is all about I know, and this is about being honest. We have to be honest with ourselves if we want any chance at fulfillment and feeling happy. We have to be honest with ourselves. And the thing is, when you lose a job or something, the worst that can happen is you won't lose your life. You might lose your lifestyle, but you won't lose your life. So now that begs the question of like, well, what is so important about my lifestyle, and who tells me I have to live a certain lifestyle? Now you look at marketing, you look at everything else around you, and you think, who is telling you how to live? Is it you or is it the world? Right? So it just, and that's the whole spiritual journey, is like, what the fuck have I been doing? Like, oh, you know, like, right? And that's the whole thing of like, that's karma. Like when you talked about the golden cage, that's karma. And karma, people have such a weird, like a very simplified idea of karma. They say, oh, karma's a bitch to make people feel better if somebody did them wrong and all of this. Karma isn't punishment. Because, I mean, in a way, if you look at it that way, we all are suffering our karma, right? Like we are all in this golden cage. And all karma is like, is your subconscious ruling your life. It's memory. Karma is memory. Karma is like your perceptions about what you deserve, your perceptions about how the world works, and how you buy into it. And so to escape your karma, you have to do these internal inspections of like I said, it's like, wait a minute, I could lose my lifestyle, not my life. And you can work with that. And then you start to think, well, what can I live with? And if I quit this job, okay, so I have some savings or whatever, and whatever all the logistics are about that, you won't be able to live in your fancy house, or you won't be able to eat this fancy food, you won't be able to buy your fancy drinks or wear your fancy clothes. But now you have freedom to think and live, right? So, I mean, it's a little bit harder when you have children, right? I have a daughter, so it gets tricky, and I understand this. I'm not saying this like it's easy peasy, right? Everybody has their own journey and what this means for them. But the point is, if you want to be happy and fulfilled, you need to be honest with yourself. And if you like your cage, then you like your cage. Go with it. But it's time to think about karma in that way of like, it's us in autopilot. You are not living consciously. You're not living consciously. It's like any animal, like a dog or a cat, an earthworm, a cricket. They have a program and they do their program. Human beings were born free. We just don't know what the fuck to do with it. And we create a program and we say, well, this is my program. And we don't do that consciously. We do that subconsciously, but that's what karma is. It's like, it could be from past lives, carry over from past lives. It's certainly our childhood and our upbringing. And we're living in between these bandwidths, and you have to escape, rise above it, right? And be like, oh, I am, if you constantly find yourself in a job that you hate constantly, and then you're going through this same conversation in your head, like, I hate this job, but I can't because I have to feed myself. And then you're cursing this whole thing of existence. And stop and actually think about what's going on. It's like, I keep finding myself here, like a hamster on a fucking wheel. And it's like, what messages do I believe about myself and what I deserve or whatever that keeps me on this wheel? That's your karma. And how do you get above that, It's hard work. It's hard work. It's not easy by any means.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like in a way we're all afraid to do what's hard, because it's hard to do those things, to really question yourself, your way of life. And of course, there will be a huge stigma potentially if you quit your job for a more, let's say, peaceful life outside, the rat race. But I think it's really like I think it's what's happening right now at this very moment. It's like the process of waking up is about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really go confront your fears, like go beyond your fears, because hey, what do you have to lose, if not actually your soul.
Right. And I think it becomes existential when it's not. It's not about I could die. It's like,
in a way, like, would you rather live a soulless rich life, or a meaningful soulful one, maybe with less income? It's like there is a kind of trade-off sometimes to do, sometimes
yeah.
maybe often, sometimes.
And there's no right or wrong answer, right? And that's what I mean. We shouldn't even judge anybody for whatever decision they make. It's like, because we all are lacking in some way based on our own yardstick, right? That's why we don't need yardsticks or meter sticks. We shouldn't measure anything. Look at yourself. Because the ruler you use to measure other people up, you don't even use it on yourself. So stop it. Just fucking stop it already. Look at yourself and be honest. And there's no right or wrong. Just don't judge yourself either, like.
Yeah, it's hard to not judge oneself, actually. I find I'm often my worst judge,
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people are, sometimes. It's like sometimes people are their worst enemies, and doing my hypnotherapy work, in a way, I try to make, in a way, it's like their own shadow being an enemy. But it's funny because I still will say, me personally, that there is shadow that like some inward shadow is like wrecking you inside, and then outward shadow is like wrecking other people's lives, Not the same. It's like some people are narcissistic, they project their shadow on other people, and that's really fucking annoying. And those are the people who will not seek my help, as a hypnotherapist, they will not seek my help. But so what I do when I meet those people is like I project their shadow back at them. It's like, you see what you do to other people, poof, mirror. It's like a mirroring technique. And then they go mad, they go insane, and they go aggressive. It's like, and then I stay calm because I'm used to it. But some people, it's opposite. It's like inside of them, the voice telling them constantly, you're shit, you're bad, you're shit, you're bad. It's like, almost like it's the narcissist is either inward, like putting you down, or outward, putting other people down. It's really interesting. Yeah? And maybe that's who correlates to what what they say, codependent, narcissistic. But from my own personal perspective, it's more like you have the empath and the psychopath, and people who tend to blame themselves, well, they tend to be more empathic, actually.
See, like, I understand the division between the different kinds of people, but if you think about what reality is, right? Like I said, when we focus on ourselves, and just like the conversation, how we started this conversation about the projection and how two people can accuse each other of projection. Well,
it was before the live started, but yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, we did talk about it before. So the point is, when we look at other people, we need to see them as messengers. They're messengers that are telling us about who we are. So when we think about narcissists that we encounter, like I had a father for a narcissist. For whatever reason, like I had to grow up with that and receive the programs I got and that I've struggled with, over the 40 years of my life. For some reason, I needed that to activate something within me. It just was part of I chose it. My soul chose that experience for me. So forgiveness is there for him, whatever, right? It was what it was. But when you encounter narcissists in your life as an adult, they're there as messengers for you, right? Like in that conversation you were talking about earlier today, if I was from that perspective of that person who was getting aggressive, it's like, you're just a messenger for them, but they're reacting because they were receiving a message they did not like. You know what I mean? So, or just in any situation, we need to think about people just as messengers. So even narcissists have a function, right? They are out in the world to be messengers to people so that they can look within themselves. You know what I mean? So bless their hearts. I mean, it can't be an easy life being a narcissist because there's a big emptiness in oneself if they have that disorder. So instead of cursing the day that we run into them, they're doing us a service, because we have to think about how we react to that narcissism. For whatever reason, they have to serve their life as a narcissist, which is not easy. I don't want to be a narcissist. I dealt with it like, I can't say my dad is happy. You can't be a narcissist and be happy. It's like, so this is the whole path of only looking at yourself and other people. And the more you do that, the more love you can have for other people, because it's like, I can have resentment towards my dad, but it's like at the same time, like that's whatever his soul, like his higher self, that's the path that I wanted to take. And I honor that because I come from the same place. I am connected to his higher self and to who he is. We are all in this. We are all the same. So it's like, in this plane, in this existence, he is a narcissist. And he activated me. And he's being a messenger to other people he encounters to look at themselves. And you know what I mean? So it's like everybody's an agent in some way. Everybody's a program in this matrix. And yeah, it's just, how are you going to react to it? You're a free person. Are you going to act according to your karma, or are you going to be conscious about, what is the message this person is telling me about me? But we don't do that a lot of times. We're reactionary because of our subconscious, because of our karma. We say, fuck that person. They're this and this and this. And really, we need to think about, how are we going to react to this person, you know?
Yeah. What if you know yourself, like truly, you know, like a mirror, like a crystal clear, hypothetically, you know, I'd like to believe it's possible. Actually, what people think of you is more a reflection of them than it says about you. And in a way, I think it's what true confidence is. It's like your opinion of me will not affect my self-worth, but not because I reject it, but because I accept myself the way that I am. And if you say something like negative to me, like if someone says something negative to me, I will consider, okay, maybe there's something true about what they say. Then I have to reflect back upon my behavior and, you know, adapt, because there might be some element of truth in what they say. You know, that's one possibility. Another possibility is like maybe they say something negative because I upsetted them. That's another possibility. So it's like, it's not really have a relationship to reality, but it's more to upset me because I upset them, and it's a potato game.
Yeah.
It's like we play ping pong. Sometimes I might say something that upset people, and I know I will get something back often. But after a significant amount of time, like for me, like maybe for 35 years, I've been like, okay, considering everything that people said, like could be true, could be not true, not taking it too personally, but try to improve my behavior upon what they said. But eventually you realize, well, people are saying things that they don't really mean, you know, quite often. And so now, in a way that I gain a lot more confidence upon myself, I would say stability of self-esteem, and I try not to be too self-aggrandizing. You know, it's okay to believe in yourself as well. I don't think it's narcissistic to believe in yourself, not at all.
Right.
I think maybe the word narcissism is not always the right one compared to what this phenomenon is and what the problem is. Because what I see the problem is more often, like let's say, if you look really good in society, like you shine, some people will try to diminish your value, you know, for them to feel better. So this is, you know, what you could say is covert narcissism, but I would say is like, is a result of an internal wound of like, I don't feel good enough. And I think that the way that I will feel good enough is by diminishing your value. That's often the issue, you know, when we say narcissism, that's usually what it is. And the other one is like, I don't have a good self-esteem. I don't have enough elements in real life to build my esteem based on real world evidence. So I'm going to make up a story and I'm going to believe that story. And so there's often an element of, you know, mythomania in narcissism. It's like tell some lies and then believing your own lies. And in a way, for me, that's why I said the diagnosis should be more SDCD. You know, it's all PTSD, SD, whatever, like self-deceptive cult disorder. It's like what I found as a one who run honesty meetups, you know, for a while, and hypnotherapist is actually people, you know, lie consciously, you know, on purpose, you know, to protect someone else, but they like subconsciously to protect themselves. And so it's completely oblivious to that. Like they have no awareness whatsoever to it. But I would like to think that a guy like me, who's got enough experience, you know, understanding this dynamic between the conscious and the subconscious mind, is able to pick up the signs. But usually, if you confront that, you got an explosion. And then if you confront the explosion, you got double explosion. And you confront this other explosion, you got and in a way, that's maybe that's my projection as well, huh? But I found a bit of joy because I've been profoundly wounded by narcissists most of my life. My stepmother, a bit my mother, my brother, my ex-wife, so many. At some point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna declare war on narcissism. Because I have to. It's like at some point I'm tired of it, and so when I see the pattern, it's like, oh, he's a good one. I'm gonna out not narcissistic them, but I'm gonna mirror their behavior, and I'm gonna show them exactly, you know, how I perceive them to be, and usually is the explosion. And then I say, well, you know, I was just mirroring what you're doing to other people, that maybe you have no awareness. And then, and I know on the spot, it's going to make them super angry. But no one ever in their life tell them something like this. But a few weeks later, they're going to take up their own piece and potentially do some work. Some people will, some people won't. But at least maybe I will have done a good day of job, a good day job. You know, my job is like empowering empaths, you know, because they often don't like themselves enough because they've been put down by narcissists. In a way, I see it simply, it's like empaths versus psychopaths. It's like some people are constantly being bullied, and they're usually the kindest one. And some people bully others, and they never get bullied back. So I bully back the bullies, and I try to give some strength to weak. I mean, maybe not the weak, because they're actually the one who are strong enough to handle the shit that other people throw at them, you know? So it takes strength to take that because they're more measured. They're stronger in a way. You know, it's like they're not willing to throw the hot potato at someone else. But sometimes they become potato bag and then they feel shit about themselves. And, well, you know, we hope to help those people, you know, let's bring everyone's confidence up again. You know, like it's okay to love yourself. It's not narcissistic.
Yeah, definitely. That's like when I was talking earlier about don't judge billionaires because you're not doing enough too. I don't mean that as a way like, let's all chastise ourselves. You know, it's more like, this is why you don't need to worry about other people. You know, like just worry about yourself. If you want to do more, do more. If you don't. It's not a big deal. Just don't look at other people like the billionaires. Just look at yourself. So I don't mean that in like some like self-punishment of like, look at you, you're terrible too. It's more like just accept reality for what it is and work on yourself. And it's okay to have something. It's okay to have things. It's okay to want comfort. It's there. It's available. This world, it's like having a perspective of abundance instead of scarcity. When you look at billionaires and you say, fuck those guys, like you're operating from a place of scarcity. You know, like if you felt and believed in abundance, you wouldn't even think about other people, right? Both above you or below you. Now, this is why you just have to do that internal journey, and whatever you're motivated to do in your heart, do that. But because you're looking out here and over here, you're not looking here, or you're not honoring this. Or if you honor this, it might mean you have to quit your job and drop your lifestyle, lose your lifestyle, not your life, right? So it's definitely about going within. Now, about narcissists, like obviously the people we're talking about that we've dealt with are undiagnosed, but we just know that they are. Like my sister and I, my brother, we all know our dad is narcissist. Is he diagnosed? Of course not. He's saved by the blood of Jesus. Like, you know, like he doesn't need a psychiatrist. Jesus is the psychiatrist, but he clearly is. Of course, his reality is warped. In fact, apparently he put this Facebook post this week. I don't really even go on Facebook, so they just send me screenshots. But he posted like an old picture of my mom, me, and my sister, like probably when I was like 8. First of all, we look terribly unhappy, which is not normal, right? Children should be like, fuck yeah, right? No, my sister and I were like, and my mom was, and his caption for this was reminiscing on the past and thinking about going back. Of course, as a narcissist, he's framing that like, oh, the past, you know, like I wish I could go back. My kids are grown, like this kind of thing. But of course, to the children, my sister and I were like, whatever, right? Why? So you can like you were an abusive narcissist, like, asshole. And in my mind, what I saw was, oh, it's because he misses that power. He doesn't have that power now. He doesn't have people in his life that he can brutalize because he feels small anymore. And he has my mom, which has come at the expense of her relationship with her own children, right? I don't have a relationship with my mom because she belongs to him. So when he says, I wish I could go back, like I know what that means. He misses that power. He misses that like control. And that's sad. Because in his mind, he probably doesn't think of it like that. He thinks, oh, I could go back and I don't know, maybe do things differently, or I don't fucking know, because he's suffering now because he doesn't have a relationship with, you know, with people, and everybody is starting to see his real colors. So it's starting to dawn on him a little bit. So they just warp reality in the way that serves them. And it's sad. We have to feel empathy for people like that. We do. We just have to. I mean, he's effed me up badly. But at the same time, I can look at it like that, or I could say, he activated me to be who I need to be and who I was meant to be. You know, I'm becoming still. So we just need to be empathetic. Like things are, things just are. We need to just not frame them in good or bad and dichotomies, right? It's like we need to transcend that karma like lifestyle of being in a hamster wheel and just like higher perspective, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's hard to escape blame. You know, it's like what's responsible for it hurts somewhere emotionally, who to blame. And that's why I say it's a hot potato game. It's like it's not miss you, it's not miss you, it's not miss you. But narcissists particular, it's like it's not miss you.
Never
And
then.
some people, it's like, oh yeah, it's me, it's me, it's me. And I think maybe it would be better to reframe the whole thing, you know, not to be individual, but it's like really, it's for all our shadows. All our shadows as individuals. It's like if we have a common enemy, it's within. You know, we all have an enemy within. All of us, like me included as well. But I noticed when you said about power as well, like when you know, like when I got divorced and then you know the justice system was against me, and I felt like completely disempowered. then I have to admit I became more narcissistic, in my behavior. I noticed it in myself. Because in a way I wanted some attention and some degree of control over my life that I lost. And so, but that being said, like, okay, sometimes I blame the world, but I try to find, to channel this anger into something, useful, and not put it on any particular person, because actually those are systematic ones. It's like you vote for a president and it's always the president's fault. It's always the president, and the president always change, politics always change, but there's always problems. And I think problems, they're just transversal to all individuals. They're even like, you could say the environment, you say, oh, we have environmental problem, but really it's the environmental issues we've got, they're just symptoms of human problems, because as humans, we have not been able to really take our responsibility and take care of
ourselves.
Take co-responsibility, really. So now is the time where really we need to get our shit together and, in a way, acknowledge our co-responsibility. We're all co-responsible for pretty much everything, actually. So, and in a way, if you take responsibility, this is how you really empower yourself. It's like, yes, I am to blame too. Like, maybe you've been abused by someone, and like, you don't share responsibility 50-50, you could say, no one does. Because it's like a woman who gets raped, well, she's not as responsible as the guy who, raped her. Like in Arabia, Saudi, well, this is their fault. Well, it's insane, no? Like, there's some victims and some victimizers, yes. But you could say, like, if you dress a bit provocatively and you go out at night at the wrong time, you have a tiny amount of, because you add agency over doing it or not, and perhaps you could have thought about it, you have a tiny amount of responsibility. And that's difficult to consider. But if you don't consider this as a way, that's like maybe you have 1% responsibility at least in anything, then you completely disempower yourself, and you project everything upon the world, and that's not useful, and that's not gonna get you back up. So after, how do we move beyond the individual's blame and towards, let's move together towards tackling? Because imagine a world where we find the secret, the magic recipe, the magic formula, magic potion for healing everyone's shadow. It's like all my trauma gone, all my shadow gone, so there's no projection anymore. Imagine how beautiful this world would be, And
right, but it's a process. We can't make that happen overnight. And like when you said, that maybe a woman has some responsibility if they dress a little provocatively or whatever. Well, let's first understand that anyone should be able to dress as they please, as they want, right? And people should just carry on. So it's not okay that a woman gets raped, even if she dresses provocatively.
No, of course not. I'm not.
Right. I understand what you're saying too. And this is where I think the hang up happens in this argument. It's like, it's never the woman's fault. But this culture, then we really need to work on this culture that we have with certain men thinking that they have agency over a woman who dresses a certain way. That's what we need to work on. And that takes time. And until the risk factor of dressing a certain way changes or whatever, I will agree there's a risk factor, but it's never someone's fault. A woman should wear whatever the fuck she wants or not wear whatever she wants, right? We really need to work on that culture and this idea that some men have, like, that they have access to any woman that they want. And if a woman does this or that, oh, she's asking for it. You know, like that's a very disgusting, perverted part of our culture that needs to change. And we need to make changes to that. And part of that, though, is not saying that women shouldn't dress a certain way. You know what I mean? That's part of the change that needs to happen.
I agree completely. But it's just like if for someone to be empowered, they have to take this responsibility on board. It's like, okay, this is not okay, but I'm going to take this responsibility. And they could have in the past, but they didn't. So it's like it means it's like saying I have no agency over the unfolding of things. It's like we all have a bit of agency over the unfolding of things. But you could say 0.0001%. Like maybe I could have, fixed the environment. I could have, I didn't because I was busy with other things and or maybe my upbringing and all of this. But if I really, 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 really wanted, I would have solely dedicated my life to this. I could have saved the world, maybe. Who knows? Like maybe 1%. Like, and I think, think like Elon Musk, in a way, his good side, not the brain implant side. I liked him before that part. It's like taking responsibility for, the planet has a problem, pollution, we need to shift to electric cars. I'm going to take responsibility and I'm going to put this in the world. And so wouldn't it be wonderful that more women will take responsibility for all the shit that happened to them and say, okay, I'm going to do something about it, take responsibility on this issue, not say it's not being a victim position, because it could be some women are victim for sure, yes, and it's unacceptable. It needs to change. So who's gonna do it? I think it's as much guys' responsibility as women's responsibility. Like me, on the other side, I've noticed like some men being abused emotionally, not physically. That's much less talked about, but horrible things happen to guys as well. So it's not a problem of guy, girls. It's nothing to do with this. It's a problem, I think, of shadow, of like the unspoken. There's many issues that are unspoken, unresolved, unexpressed that are causing those things to happen. And until people's trauma are healed, men, women, both, it doesn't matter. Those things will still happen. But it will be useful to go deep into the root of the problem and solve it there, like why those things still happen. And why do we let those things happen? That's the other thing as well.
I mean, I absolutely feel the passion to want to move and transcend over these lines of gender, race, whatever, you name it, right? Sexuality. It's such a slow process. And that's why I think definitely the work needs to become within, because nowadays there's like, we have guidelines on how to be a victim, right? Like if a woman is raped, she needs to be outraged about whatever. And I am a woman. And so it's like a woman who's been raped. That's what I'm saying. Like a woman who's been raped, it's not the time to say, well, there were risks associated with this or that. It's like, you were raped. That's a very horrible thing that happened to you. And that's why we're not even going to look at this whole dynamic of male culture, female culture. Let's talk about you and your healing. This happened. What are you going to do with this pain? Let's transmute your pain. That's the only conversation that needs to be had. Because it should be fucking obvious men shouldn't be raping like women. It should be obvious that people shouldn't be raping people or children or animals. Rape is fucked, okay? Like, I don't care who does it. So when a rape occurs, that should be the only conversation. We shouldn't introduce male rape culture and all this, that's just fueling the fire. That's not solving anything. Women need to heal. Anyone who is a rape victim needs to heal. That's it. That's all. And when you can do that, all that other noise about what they wear, rape culture, men need to stop, whatever, all that nonsense it just quiets down, because what is the use of all of that anyway? We need to focus on healing and loving the victims. And it just goes beyond rape. It goes beyond people who lose children to cancer, people whose children get murdered, or, a lot of horrible things that happen. We need to focus on healing. We need to console and love on people that experience travesty in their life, and not introduce all the bullshit. We need to say, you are hurting, you are loved, there's a community behind you. How can we help you transmute your pain into something helpful? And it'll take however long it takes. But all this argument, all this dichotomy, all this bullshit does not help heal anyone. It doesn't heal anybody. You're just adding hate and anger. You're fueling the victim's part of their brain that wants to be angry. And we get it, anger happens. We're not saying don't feel angry, but don't fuel it either. It doesn't help. It just doesn't help. And it's unfortunate, right? I mean, the left has gotten obnoxious. So I don't even ascribe to being left. I'm just independent, because it's all this like the whole feminism movement and how they've been, it's been, as a woman of color, it's been ridiculous. It's a white woman movement. That's what I'm saying. It's, I don't know if you've seen the new Dave Chappelle special. It's brilliant. Brilliant. You have to watch it. It talks a lot about that. It's that toxic left perspective on race war. It's like a religion. It's just as hyper as the right. That's because the more you look at things dichotomously, the more ridiculous you get. We have to meet somewhere in the middle where the truth is. There is no dichotomy. We all want the same things. And I think that's becoming a lot more clear. Andrew Yang's coming up and trying to start a third party for the United States. And I think that's freaking amazing. We need it. It's part of our healing process. We are not the nation we aim to be, that we wish we were, that we want to be. I believe in the American people. It's just not being run by the right people. Yeah. And that sucks. America is a beacon of light. And that's what the American people want. That's what we believe. That's what we, but not under this leadership. I don't give a fuck if you're Democrat or Republican. You're all terrible. And by you all, I mean Congress and the White House. So yeah, happy Halloween.
I want to clap for what you said. That was.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it's similar in France. I don't know much about your political system, but I feel like globally, there's something shifting. It's hard when you're an American because all you care about is America, but I'm trying to expand my awareness.
Yeah, Yeah, but I love what you said. You know, I love your rant, and I think it was 100% justified. You know. I think
But
it's
it is what it is, you know?
it's masculine way. Sometimes want to find a way to solve problem, but sometimes it's like, no, it's just, and I think you're right, you know, it's like, there's things to say to some people and things not to say to other people, you know, so like, some of the things I would have said would have definitely upset some people, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
We just need to love. And we can't love if we don't love ourselves. That's why we need to fix this relationship. This one, you know?
Yeah, I would love to live in a world where women are not afraid of men, you know, and men are not afraid of women, you know, seriously. It's like
Or just people are not afraid, you know? Like,
yeah,
it's not even about
fear. In a way, I think also of some men, you know, that don't have a sexual partner. It's difficult for them. I have compassion for them too. And I have compassion for, yeah, it's unacceptable that some women be forced into, it's completely unacceptable. It's like, can't we just figure out a better way to, you know, get on well and everyone get more of what they want on good terms, you know? I think it's possible, you know?
it is.
In a way, women, I believe, love sex as much as guys. There's no reason, if not more. But
I mean, yeah, it could be, I think people are just different, right? There's some people who are completely asexual and don't enjoy sex at all.
yeah, it's fine too. It's fine.
It's
so many different ways to be, you know, but can't we just find ways that you know, we can make it work? Maybe you know, a woman could be more, from my point of view, more explicit about what they want, and maybe the competitions, you know, like, okay, who's interested? Like, let's make it more overt. Like, beautiful women say, okay, who's interested in my hand? You know, like before you will have contestant for the hand of someone. You know, it's like,
yeah, I don't know.
And some contestant, and they will compete because men compete. That's what they do. It's part of life, and you just have to deal with it as a man. You're in competition with other guys. Just deal with it. So you have to get your shit together in order to get the bell. It's the way it is. So some people are bad players. You know, they don't like this. But in the animal realm, it's just the way it is. You know, women are doing the selection usually. You know, except peacocks. You know, it's like, but yeah, I think sometimes like men don't really fully understand what women want in a man. And it's like it's really twisted because of the media that they consume, porn obviously, and all that stuff. It's like, I think
What does it matter to a man, you know? Like, it should just be
men want love, you know.
like, a man should be like, what do I want, as opposed to what do women want? Why? So you could form yourself to that? I mean, like, just be, you know, that's what I mean. It all begins with yourself.
Yeah,
like,
okay. Because there's so many men who kind of use a pickup technique to trick women, whatever.
See, that's bullshit.
Yes, that's yeah.
That's what I mean. That's the energy. That is the energy behind what do women want? That's the energy behind that. It's like, why? So you can trick us, or like, what is why don't you focus on what you want and then vibe with that energy so you can attract what you want, as opposed to just trying to attract women in general, because we're all different. So we're individuals, we're not women, you know. We are individual beings. So focus, and this is just for everybody, men, women, whatever, like, because women might say, I don't know what men want. Well, we think we know what men want, right? See, it's wrong either way. We're presumptuous about what men want, and men feel confused about what women want, both of which are just not, that's what I mean. It all comes down to focus on what you want, vibe with that, learn to feel like you deserve that, and it will come. Like, you know, it all comes back to that every time. It's so crazy, you know, like.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. Yeah, it's true. I didn't think about this subject of what women wanted after a divorce. Before, I was too busy with computers and you know, understanding things, and then eventually I was like, okay, I need to try to understand people. What, especially women, I don't really understand them.
Well, women are starting to understand themselves first and foremost because we've been told what to be like, right? So we're kind of like trying to figure it out. So we don't need that added pressure. It's like we're trying to figure it out. So don't worry about it. We're not some conglomerate. We're individual beings, like, you know.
But you know, at least it will be useful for guys to know what women don't want.
But again, we're all different. Like we are. It's not like women are just one block of cheese.
Okay, but I give you an example. For instance, so one day I was like in a sound bath, whatever, meditation, and they tend to be more women in spiritual, you know, yoga, sound healing kind of stuff than men. Then there was an event of like a tantra right after, and I say, hey, why don't you stay? It's gonna be for free. You know, I like you, and we don't have enough men, basically. So we were just two guys, and there was like maybe 10 women, and it was my first time doing this tantra thing, and but it was all about boundaries. You know, like what do you want, and then the other, like, I would like to do this for you, and the other person say yes or no, and that's fine. You respect boundaries. It's all about boundaries, respecting, actually. You know, it's the whole tantra is all about this. It's like, what's the intersection of you know, me, you are able to express what you actually want, and me respecting you know, your opinion, but also yeah, like, so those women actually, they were quite like, well, please touch me. You know, like, touch me everywhere.
Maybe we should save that for next week.
Be touched. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not sure I'm willing to do this. You know, see what I mean?
Yeah. Let's table this for next week because we've gone a little over 2 hours now. Yes. Let's do next week. Just tantra. Like, tantra involves more than sex. So first, you know, so let's kind of dive into the world of tantra and what that means to us next week. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds great, because for me, it's a constructive and time all proven to really, I think, if everyone learned, you know, the basic principle of tantra, whatever the spirituality, doesn't matter. It's actually, I acknowledge your boundary, you acknowledge mine, I express what I want, you express what you want. It's like a respectful dance. If everyone understood those basic things, life would be so much better for everyone. Yeah. So yeah, for next time.
Cool. Yeah. And I think next week we'll be back on regular, the time that we're used to. This daylight savings thing is crazy. But yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
Ciao.